Are we on? Picture in picture is not available when live. When you leave one live stream app. Okay. All right. Hi, guys. All right, we got some stuff to talk about. So, I hope you guys can hear me. Um, I have my little headset on, and I'm checking to see if you guys can hear me. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2 3. All right, there we go. All right, we can do it. Okay. Happy Sunday. I hope you guys are doing good. Hope you guys are doing great. Hope you guys are doing fantastic. Let's see, where are we streaming? So I have like all of my things. Okay, it says I'm live. All right, cool beans. All right, so we're live. We're live on Facebook. We're live on YouTube. I did my live earlier on Vigo. I was on live for like an hour over there. But this is going to be a completely different live stream. My daughter, Bree, told me about a story yesterday, and she was like, you should talk about this story because nobody is talking about this story, and I don't know why this isn't national news, but you should definitely talk about this story. So it seems that 7 people were charged in a child sex ring. It was running out of Alabama in a concrete bunker, according to the sheriff's office, right? So I was like, I had no idea. I didn't know anything about this. And we are going to talk about this. So 7 people have been charged in connection with an alleged sex trafficking operation that Alabama officials say was run out of a concrete bunker and involved children as young as the age of 3. The case includes charges of grape, we can't say the real word on social media, sexual torture, kidnapping, and human trafficking. And officials allege the abuse took place in a cinder block building in Brent, Alabama, 50 miles southwest of Birmingham, which is Bibb County. Sheriff Jody Wade said at a news conference on Wednesday. So he called the alleged abuse and torture the most horrible thing I've ever seen perpetrated against children. And I know God's forgiveness is boundless, Wade said, but if there was a limit to it, I think we've reached it. He said the operators of the sex abuse ring charged people to come to the bunker and abuse the children, adding that the operation may have made $1,000 a night. So sometimes the children would be there tied to a pole that was there, bound to a bed that was there, or in a chair that was there, Wade said. Sometimes there would be multiple people that would come by and victimize these children on a nightly basis. So an image of the inside of the bunker was released by the sheriff's office, and it showed a filthy mattress in a corner and a folding chair and a fan. So the sheriff also alleged that the children were sometimes medicated to make them a little bit more drowsy and a little bit more compliant. Okay. An animal shock collar was used. It was found in there, and it was used to punish the children, according to compliance obtained by NBC affiliate WVTM of Birmingham. So Wade said the suspects included relatives of some of the 10 alleged victims who ranged in age from 3 years of age to 15 years of age. So the children are in the custody of the state, said Robert H. Turner Jr., the district attorney for the 4th Judicial Circuit of Alabama. The sheriff said the operation appears to have come together in about 2022 and that officials began investigating in February after state child welfare officials alerted Bibb County authorities to the possibility of abuse at a home near the bunker. So the children did not live in the bunker, the sheriff said. Okay, so Wade said a medication trafficking investigation at the location may have delayed the SEX trafficking case. So we had a little bit of a hold on until we could rescue these children, the sheriff said. And so I'm seeing a picture of the mattress. It's a twin mattress on like a platform type of thing. And there's a chair, a folding chair, sitting right beside the twin bed. There's a really dirty fan that's plugged up. There's a plug beside the bed, and there's a really dirty fan. There's just like a nightstand, 2, 3, 4. It's like 4 drawers on it, and some sort of radio. You can see hand sanitizer. It looks like, I don't know, like cotton balls or something like that. I don't know. And that's what the bunker looks like. That's what it looked like in there. And it is made of cinder blocks, and those cinder blocks are painted white. The floor is concrete, peeling. It looks like it's kind of gray. It's filthy. It's really dirty. The fan is dirty. Everything's dirty. Everything in here is just filthy. And that is a storm shelter that involved the investigation. So allegedly, this is where the crimes were taking place, right? Another account says at least 2 of the arrests were made in April. The sheriff's office said a number of defendants have confessed to crimes outlined in the charges, Wade said. So the 7 face a mix of charges, including rape, sexual abuse, sexual torture of a child, human trafficking, sodomy, kidnapping, a word that I can't say on YouTube, bestiality. You guys know what that is, right? And animal abuse because of the bestiality, right? And this is according to the criminal complaints. It is not clear if all of the defendants have obtained legal counsel or not. We are diligently investigating all leads and gathering evidence to build the strongest possible case, Turner said. Turner said additional arrests and charges are likely. We anticipate that new names that have surfaced during the course of the investigation will also be presented for consideration, he said, by email on Friday. So Wade also said there could be more victims. They're not sure right now, but there could be more victims to this case. So Homeland Security also investigations, they're working to determine if there are possible links to a national gang-run sex trafficking ring, Wade said. So the agency did not immediately respond to a request for comment on Friday, and they're trying to figure out if this is a part of something bigger or if this was just an isolated incident. And then they also give us a warning and some help. If you are a child being abused, or you know a child who may be facing abuse, call the Child Help National Child Abuse Hotline at 1-800-422-4453. Or you can go to www.childhelphotline.org. States often have child abuse hotlines, but if you suspect a child's life is in immediate danger, call 911. So I will leave that information in the description box on YouTube, and I'll also try to leave it somewhere on Facebook so you guys can use that information if you know, if you want to help somebody. Looking at the New York Times, the sheriff called it the worst child abuse case he's seen in his 33-year career, which I definitely have to agree. Okay, so the New York Times has a picture of the outside of the bunker. Now, the majority of the bunker, of course, is underground, but the top, it's tall enough to where there's a door, like, so you can walk in, right? And then there's like a window. I can see houses in the background. I want to say it looks like a swing or something. It's behind a tree, but it's hard to tell. But it's not isolated. It's not like, you know, in the back of the woods or anything like that. Like, it literally, you can see a neighborhood. There's a road, you can see a neighborhood, and then the little, you know, house or whatever, like a storm shelter right there on the outskirts of that road. So it says underneath the picture, 7 people were charged in connection with a human trafficking operation in Brent, Alabama, where children were kept in a concrete structure, and authorities, you know, were there. This was by WBRC, and yeah, I can't imagine the way it looks. I can't imagine that you could literally coerce a child into that building or that structure. I don't see it happening willingly, because this is not somewhere that's pretty. You know, it's not like a tree house or a playhouse or, you know, somewhere where a child would want to go. So no. Let's see. The inside pictures that they have on the New York Times is exactly the same. They were able, like I said, to get an outside picture so you could know what it looks like. I can imagine that a lot of people probably saw this and didn't know what was going on. Because, like I said, there are houses in the background, so this is not like it's, you know, isolated in the woods somewhere. Yeah. It remains unclear what will be done with the bunker once the investigation concludes. Asked about it during the news conference, Sheriff Wade said he had not yet considered it, but if he had his way, he would blow it up. And I don't blame him one bit. So that's what the New York Times had to say about this. On regular television, it's literally not going national, but there are a lot of news outlets that are picking this up. Right now, we're going to the Washington Post. Reeling over alleged child sex ring, Alabama community asked, did no one know? At prayer meetings and other gatherings, Bibb County residents have grappled with the realization that horrific crimes may have been happening. And it wasn't a may have been happening, it was definitely happening. It was definitely happening. All right, let's check this out. This is the Washington Post. And let's see if I can get past this ad. That would be great. That would be great. All right, here we go. Community leader and minister Bobby Terry, Gerard Sander, and Centerville Mayor Mike Oakley lead a morning prayer gathering with members of the Centerville and Brent communities on July the 26th in response to recent child abuse allegations. Now, inside a small Presbyterian church off the courthouse square, a few dozen people packed the pews on a hot summer evening, their faces mixed with sweat and tears. This was a prayer visual for the children. There were Baptists and Methodists and some who claimed no denomination at all, heads bowed, eyes closed, in a rare show of interfaith unity amid criminal allegations considered so evil that some openly wondered if Satan himself had taken up residence there, right? Days earlier, just across the street, Bibb County Sheriff Jody Wade said his office had uncovered an alleged child SES trafficking ring operation from a concrete bunker behind a home on the dusty outskirts of Brent, an adjacent town of about 3,000 people located an hour south of Birmingham. At least 10 children between the ages of 3 and 15 were allegedly victimized. So over a period spanning at least 3 years, the children had been taken to the bunker. This is 3 years. Over a period of 3 years, allegedly, these children had been taken to the bunker, a structure on the edge of a wooded area that had been originally built as an underground storm shelter in a region known for destructive tornadoes. But that refuge of safety was transformed into a den of horrors, according to Wade. So the children were allegedly medicated and abused in an operation that included SEX trafficking, torture, and acts so cruel that Wade said they led him to question humanity. 7 people were arrested and charged with a laundry list of crimes, including numerous charges of rape, sexual abuse, trafficking, and kidnapping. The defendants included the parents of at least 4 victims. So now you know that, some of these people in the first article that we read from Alabama, it said that people were related. In the Washington Post, it is letting us know that at least 4 of these relatives were parents, right? So they give us an overhead look at the bunker, at the building, right? It's metal, like sheet metal, the top of it. At the very top, it's like one of those sheds where you park your car under. They put it on top of the building, like on top of the storm shelter. And then you can see the door where you go into the storm shelter. And then I'm assuming that's, when you go down, because the rest of it is underground. So there's very little building, very small building on top of the ground, right? So the children were allegedly kept in the concrete structure where officials said they were abused by 7 people who were charged in connection with a human trafficking operation in Brent, Alabama. This again was by WVTM 13. Wade has repeatedly warned that the revelations are probably only scratching the surface, with additional victims and more arrests expected. So I know God's forgiveness is boundless, again, he says, but if there was a limit to it, I think we have reached it, he said, describing the situation as the worst case of child abuse he has seen in his career. The announcement stunned the communities of Britt and Centerville. The sister cities are on a rural county back roads, those roads that I was kind of describing to you guys, of central Alabama, a region where churches are almost prolific, as vines swallowing much of the summer landscape. Like, I know you guys have seen, like, if you go into like Birmingham and you're going to like Gardendale First Baptist and you've seen, the landscape with all the vines and stuff like that. So they're trying to give you a description of what it looks like going into that area. But for some allegations of something so sinister happening to their own backyard has been a test of their deep faith and acknowledgement of how small towns and rural communities have changed and how systems intend to protect vulnerable children often fail to do so. So in the pictures, I can't see leading up to the building. Now, if I go back to the New York Times, they're giving us a front of the building. Washington Post gives you over top. And this one right here, the first article was NBC News, gives me just the inside, right? So we have different shots of what it looks like. So according to the Washington Post, leading up to that way, it is in a neighborhood because, like I said, you can see houses in the background, which is why people are like, did anybody know? Because this is literally right off the outskirts of a neighborhood. Let's see, what else can we find out? Everybody, my emotions are all over the place, said Bobby Terry, a local minister who has been attending the prayer visuals. So there was more than one prayer visual. I just don't want the world to think that this is our community. I've been living here my entire life, and there's never been anything of this magnitude. We have problems like every other neighborhood, but there's never been anything like this. So some local residents, SEX abuse scandals are the providence of rich elites like the late financier Jeffrey Epstein, who is pictured on a billboard in nearby Birmingham with President Donald Trump, along with the question, what's the big secret, fellas? It is a reference to accusations that Trump's Justice Department is covering up details from Epstein's alleged SEX crimes that could also ensure the current president, his predecessor, Bill Clinton, or other famous people who spent time with Epstein decades ago. Trump has denied any knowledge of Epstein's crimes and has claimed that the two had a falling out years before the disgraced billionaire's convictions on SEX crimes. Now, at prayer meetings and other gatherings, Bibb County residents have grappled with the realization that even more horrific crimes than Epstein was accused of may have been happening in their own town. For some, it has shattered a sense that their small community was safer than bigger cities. But experts say that rural areas are among places where people are the most vulnerable to trafficking and abuse, including in Alabama, where local prosecutors say such cases have been on the rise. So we can't assume that just because we're in small towns that everything operates like it did in the days of the Andy Griffith Show. Robert Turner Jr., the district attorney for Alabama's 4th Judicial Circuit, which includes Bibb County, told WAKA-TV, a lot of these small towns may appear to be Mayberry, but they are far from it. Lynn Inglehouse, a Brent native, physically shivered thinking about images she had just seen of the bunker on local television. It looked like something out of a horror movie, she said, which it does, as she attended a community visual. So the case was all anyone she knew was talking about, from the kids to the suspects. And then the biggest mystery of all, how did no one know? She wondered. All that time and no one saw any sign. The isolated shelter itself. Wade said his office was tipped off about the possible abuse earlier this year by a caseworker with the Alabama Department of Human Resources, DHR, the agency that oversees child welfare. An agency spokesperson declined to comment on any aspect of the case, citing confidentiality laws, and Wade did not respond to requests for comment, but it led investigators to a property along Aaron Drive, 5 miles from the Centerville Town Square. So the home that investigators visited at the end of a long gravel driveway on the edge of the thick woods we were describing a few minutes ago, it was off of the dirt road I was telling you that you could see in the picture, riddled with potholes. It is surrounded by overgrown grassy lots dotted with wrecked cars and dilapidated mobile homes, which is probably the homes that you can see in the back of the building. Across from the driveway, a faded yellow sign almost entirely concealed by thick green vines, which they were trying to describe at the beginning. It reads, "Watch for children." So the property is linked to a relative of William Chase McElroy, 21, who was initially arrested on February the 5th and charged with 2 counts of sexual abuse for inappropriately touching 2 children, 2 young children. So according to court records, Andres Velasquez, the father of the children, is listed as a witness on the complaint. A judge said McElroy could be released from Bibb County Jail on a $60,000 bond, but it is unclear if he left custody. A week later, he was arrested again and charged with sexual abuse 2 other children under the age of 7. This time, a judge denied bond. So investigators took notice of structure behind the house that Wade said initially looked like a carport, but had a rear door leading to an underground storm shelter. There, they found a dirty mattress, a fan, and other furniture. So all we can see is, what was like in the picture. There may have been other furniture in the background, but the actual picture, it looks to be a very small room. Not much, room to move around and do things. Like you couldn't actually live in that bunker unless it was like maybe 1, maybe 2 people or whatever. But like I said, it wasn't built for living. It's a storm shelter for a very, small amount of people, I would assume. So investigators took notice of the structure behind the house that Wade said initially looked like a carport. Remember I told you that on top of the building, it looks like one of those things that you drive your car under, like a shed or whatever. Well, they put it on top of the building. So if you are driving down that dirt road, you initially will see the carport because that is on top of the building. And then the rest of the building is really short because it goes down underground. So if you're driving past that, you're not going to see a storm shelter. You're going to see a carport with mesh, like a screen, like it's screened in, right? So behind the house that Wade said initially looked like a carport but had a rear door leading to an underground storm shelter. There, they found a dirty mattress, a fan, and other furniture. A little over 2 months later, Dalton Terrell, 21 years old, a high school classmate of McElroy who lived near the bunker, was arrested and charged with multiple counts of rape, sodomy, and human trafficking. According to an April 29 complaint, Terrell admitted to investigators that he had abused 6 children and that he gave money to 2 adults to do so. Those 2 adults may or may not have been the parents that were also arrested, okay? Wade has said Terrell's cooperation blew open the investigation. The next day, Velasquez, 29, was arrested and charged with 6 counts of human trafficking. 3 of the victims were his own children, while a 4th was his partner's daughter, according to court records. On July the 15th, a Bibb County grand jury indicted McElroy, Terrell, and Velasquez on additional charges including rape, trafficking, kidnapping, and abuse. In late July, and we're going to Alabama 13. In late July, 4 others were arrested and charged in connection to the alleged trafficking and abuse, including Rebecca Brewer, Timothy St. John Jr., Ricky Terrell, and Sarah Terrell. Brewer, 29 years old, is Velasquez's partner and the mother of 4 victims. She was charged with the trafficking and kidnapping of 8 children, including her own children, and is also facing multiple counts of sexual torture. Several of the defendants are related. Okay? Are you following me so far? According to public records, Brewer is a cousin of Dalton Terrell and the niece of Sarah and Ricky Terrell, who are Dalton's parents. Yeah. Wade has said the victims were children who belonged to the defendants or related to other family members and friends. So I'm going to put a pin right there because I want to let you know something. This is not a case where they're just going out picking random children from like the mall and, you know, the playground and stuff like that. These children are in-house, in family. They got their own children and their relatives' children and their friends' children, all from the ages of 3 years old to 15 years old, to make money. And $1,000 a day was enough money for all of these adults to be okay with this. $1,000 a day was enough money for them to say, this is a great scam. This is a great thing that we're doing. Yeah. Again, Wade said the victims were children who belonged to the defendants or related to other family members or friends. According to records, St. John, 23, was a high school classmate of several defendants and a neighbor of Brewer and Velasquez. So here you've got, and this is according to public record, right? You've got Brewer. He's a cousin of Terrell and the niece of Sarah and Ricky Terrell, right? That's Dalton. Who are Dalton's parents. So you've got the niece of Sarah and Ricky Terrell, who are Dalton's parents. Okay? When you go back up here, you've got Rebecca Brewer, Timothy St. John Jr., Ricky Terry, Sarah Terrell, Brewer, 29, Velasquez's partner, and all of these people are family and friends. Court records made public Friday show that a Bibb County grand jury on Thursday issued fresh indictments against McElroy, Terrell, Velasquez, and St. John with updated charges including sexual abuse and aggravated child abuse. The indictments allege the men conspired together to abuse and deliberately torture some of the victims meaning the children. Additional charges against them and the 3 others are expected in coming weeks. So Stuart Albea, a court-appointed attorney for Velasquez, said in an email that his client denies any involvement in the conduct described in the indictment and looks forward to the opportunity to demonstrate his innocence in court. You're not going to be believed. Let me just tell you that now. Nobody's going to believe you at this point. Albea said that he was deeply concerned by how local law enforcement had made information about the case public, even as it was not yet been provided to him or his client. And he denied that Velasquez was a gang member and said that he is a U.S. citizen. Two issues that law enforcement officials told reporters they are investigating. Again, not going to be believed. We don't believe you. You're too deep in this. And even if you didn't put your hands on a child, you knew about this because y'all are all related. How do you not Anyway, this conduct appears calculated to poison the jury pool and may make it possible to seat a fair and impartial jury in rural Bibb County, Albea said, adding it also risks future harm to the alleged victim by placing sensitive allegations in the public eye prematurely. So attorneys for the other 6 defendants did not immediately respond to requests for comment. All 7 are being held without bond at the Bibb County Jail and have not yet entered pleas. So Wade said in a July 28th radio interview that some defendants are cooperating with investigation. I think the longer they have time to sit there and maybe repent, we'll get some answers to all the questions that we have to better serve these children, the sheriff said. So the allegations have left many in the community questioning what might have been missed. Wade said last week that the victims attended school and participated in other routine functions. Comment that has sparked scrutiny over whether teachers or others noticed or reported anything at all. And that's kind of what I'm thinking. Did you not notice any marks on the children, or them acting a different way, or a difference in their personality? Did they kind of seem afraid, standoffish, like anything about the children at all, because they're your students? What about the parents? Did they seem to be a bit more overbearing when it came to the kids? Did they not want the kids to talk too much? Were they threatening them under their breath? Like anything at all, right? So the superintendent of Bibb County Schools did not respond to a request for comment. Of course not. Months before Wade says their office was tipped off about possible abuse by a DHR caseworker, court records show the agency removed 4 children from Brewer, and Velasquez's home and placed them in DHR custody, right? So though it is unclear when the removal happened, records suggest it took place around the time Brewer filed an August 1st, 2024 domestic claim against Velasquez. So records about that allegation are not public right now, but a court docket notation describes the case as protection from abuse. Back in October, an attorney for the DHR filed claims against both Brewer, I don't know why I can't say that name, Brewer and Velasquez, seeking to garnish any income or financial assistance to help pay for the children's care. But Brewer was unemployed at the time. But that December, a judge approved the state's efforts to garnish Velasquez's income from a construction firm. So Brewer's complaint against Velasquez was ultimately dismissed because neither appeared in court. So by February, DHR filed petitions in Bibb County to drop the financial claims, writing to the court that the children were no longer in state custody and were back with their parents. So a circuit court judge dismissed the cases on March 18th, about a month before Velasquez was arrested. It's unclear when the children were placed back into state custody. So speaking to reporters, Wade said that so far he believes only those with direct knowledge of the alleged trafficking operation were aware the children were being abused. But Carolyn Potter, a longtime child advocate who is the chief executive of the Well House, an Alabama-based nonprofit that operates one of the largest residential treatment programs for trafficking survivors in the country, is skeptical of claims that there were no signs. She said people in rural communities best by poverty are particularly vulnerable to being like what's the word I'm looking for? Like picked. We're going to use the word picked by relatives or others with family connections. And I'm being very careful because we're streaming on Facebook and YouTube. So there are certain words that we can and cannot say. So, you know, I'm skating a thin line right now. Okay. I'm fighting for my life because I can't really say, you know, the correct words or whatever, but they're picked by relatives or other family members or other friends with family connections. So, you know, when you say ring, they're all in this together. They're on one accord. They think it's a great idea. They're going to use these children to do this, and the third and make their $1,000 a day and sit back and watch or not watch and just, you know, I don't know, stand outside the bunker or whatever. I don't know how they were running this thing. This is all allegedly, except for what we know to be fact and truth, right? So that's especially true in areas that are less patrolled by the law enforcement. So if you don't have police, you know, running around a certain area of your, you know, small town, you can seemingly get away with more, right? 47% of Brent lives below the poverty level. So identifying trauma in children can also be difficult, Potter said. Teachers often play a key role in reporting possible abuse, given the close bonds they form with their students, she added. Last week, a former Bibb County teacher told Birmingham's WBMA that she repeatedly reported concerns about one of their students during 2023-2024 academic year to school administrators. So yes, somebody did see something and somebody did say something. The student believed to be one of the victims showed signs of neglect, which we had questions about, including poor hygiene, which we had questions about, had chronic absences, exhibited developmental issues. The former teacher told the TV station, adding that her complaints went nowhere. So, again, it's not just law enforcement that's failing here. You know, you tell us if you see something, say something, and then when you say something, nothing gets done. Right? Teachers have too much to do. They're already being mom and dad and aunt and uncle. They're being doctor and they're being counselor, and they are being so many different things that they're already doing. These teachers, they love the kids like they're their own. So yeah, if a teacher says, I'm seeing a difference in this kid, or this kid isn't seemingly to be taken care of, you probably need to listen to that teacher, because the teacher has the kid the majority of the day while the parents are at work or, you know, doing whatever they're doing. And kids are, you know, normally in school almost 8 hours a day, and then longer than that if they have extracurricular activities. So who's seeing these kids all day? So whoever's raising your kid, that's who you should be listening to and saying, hey, or your teachers are helping you raise your kids, you probably should be listening, to that teacher when they are filing complaints, when they are saying something's wrong with my student. You know what I'm saying? All right, wrapping this up, because I've got like about 15 minutes here, right? Absolutely shattered. Back to the Washington Post. Residents gathered on the lawn of Bibb County Courthouse 2 days after Wade's news conference to pray for the victims, law enforcement, the community, and each other. Many were angry. They saw the notes on social media calling for things like vigilant justice for the suspects. Why do we even need a trial? One person posted on Facebook. Mike Oakley, the mayor of Centerville, had leaped into action, organizing visuals and other public events because he wanted people here to talk and reflect. When this happens, we're literally shocked, like a punch in the face, a community punch in the face, he said. Deep down, Oakley knew the small town experience was not the same for everybody. Many in Brent and Centerville now commute into Birmingham and Tuscaloosa instead of working in town and getting to know their neighbors. In the South, we are all about being front porch people, knowing our neighbors, talking to them, he said. We need to be that way again. But first, they needed to pray. So the prayer visual went on. Judges, were there. They prayed outside the courthouse where the defendants will appear before a judge in the coming weeks. Also, inside the church, the following evening, they sat in a small group praying for everybody involved. Some grudgingly included the accused. Let's see, Ingle Haas, who grew up in Brent, kept thinking about another event in her small city that made national news 52 years ago. In May 1973, the town took a direct hit from one of the most violent tornadoes to ever hit the state. It destroyed 90% of the city, including her childhood home. Many people were lost, and they lost everything. So a memorial along Main Street marks the date, describing Brent as a city proven by tempest. But Inglehausen worried the allegations of child sex abuse and trafficking, if proved, could end up being more damaging to the city than the tornadoes. I totally agree with that. People are just absolutely shattered over this. He said no one thought anything like this could happen here. Well, as we see with proof from experts that this stuff normally happens, this is the type of thing that can get swept under the rug in a small town, if you will. And so now Alabama WVTM13.com will give you everything you need to know about the Bibb County sex trafficking ring investigation. I can't imagine they have anything that we have not covered, but they do have a couple of videos if you want to check that out. I'll try to put the links in the description as well for you if you're on YouTube. They also have pictures of all of the people involved on WVTM 13. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They have all 7. And when I tell you these people look like they live on the mountain, I'm not trying to be disrespectful or anything, but I'm going to put the link in the description box so you can see these people. This is outrageous. And I'm looking at these people. They don't look anything like I thought they would look, except for Velasquez, which the smile on his face is very sinister. He's the only one smiling, and Rebecca Brewer looks like she's about to pass out. William Chase McElroy looks completely lost. But Andreas Velasquez, I mean, sinister. I mean, this man looks like he's the ringleader. He looks like he meant to do this. I mean, the smile on his face is disgusting. So yeah, I'm gonna take that picture and make that the thumbnail because I want you guys to see. I want you guys to see what these people look like. Yeah, I do. I want you guys to see what these people look like. I want you guys to see the looks on their faces. It's disgusting. Disgusting. So that's what we're going to do with that. There's also video here on WVTM 13 of them being taken into custody. So I definitely want to add that into the description box. Some video of the prayer, visuals. But they don't have any information that we don't know or that we haven't covered. But if you want to see the videos and stuff like that, I will put those links in there. So thank you to Brianna Ray Smith, my lovely, beautiful daughter, for bringing this article to light, this case to light. I mean, this is huge. This is a huge case. It should be national news. And I definitely want to give a shout out to WVTM 13, give a shout out to the WashingtonPost.com for covering this, the NewYorkTimes.com for posting this and covering this story, the NBCNews.com team for covering this. This is groundbreaking. Everybody out there who is bringing light to this story, you guys should be commended for this. We're going to be following this story because I definitely want to see justice for these children. And again, if you guys know a child who's being abused, or you are a child who's being abused, even if you think, if you are a teacher or anybody who works with children at a daycare or anything, and you think for a moment that a child could be in danger, call 911 and or www.childhelphotline.org. There's also a number for the National Child Abuse Hotline, 1-800-422-4453, and I will be adding that to the description box on YouTube. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me on today's stream. This was really important for us to talk about and bring awareness to. Share this out, talk about this, follow this case, pray for these people, pray dearly for these children, because if you know anything about this type of abuse in children, it literally is going to alter their lives forever. And we definitely want to pray that this is not a stumbling block for them. This won't stop their progress or stop their lives, stop them from flourishing. You know what I mean? We want them to be good citizens. We want them to have a prosperous life. We don't want them to be mentally tortured for the rest of their lives by this, right? So thank you guys again for tuning in, and I will talk to you guys soon. Be blessed.